What's up? Henny reads a book, Sidetracked reads Infinite Jest, Part 2. Let's get it going. We're gonna do pages, pages 7 to 13. Not that much progress, but I've had a busy few days. Whatever. I would have liked to read a little bit more, but that's alright. Let's go through it. I just recorded a whole thing, but I was so scattered it wasn't really going well. So let's do it again, dude. Infinite Jest. Alright. So remember, last where we left off, they're like, dude, your scores suck. Please explain what's going on. And they're like, dude, your scores are so bad. But you wrote these 9 incredible essays. And the topic he was supposed to write these essays about was what's the most transformative educational experience you've ever had. That's what they tell him to write these essays on. So you know what he does? He writes 9 essays about neoclassical assumptions in contemporary prescriptive grammar. Another one is the implications of post-Fourier transformations for holographically mimetic cinema. The next one, the emergence of heroic stasis in broadcast entertainment. Another one is Montag grammar and the semantics of physical modality. Here's another one that says, a man who began to suspect he was made of glass, which sounds sick to me. I'd like to read one about that. He's like, am I made of glass? And he like trips and breaks, and he's like, yeah, no, I'm dead. This one is about tertiary symbolism in Justinian erotica. You know, I don't know what the other ones fully meant, but I definitely don't think that was the most transformative educational experience he's had, was tertiary symbolism in Justinian erotica, if I had to guess. Beats me, though. I don't know his life. And so, yeah. So they get in this school, they're like, write 9 essays about the most, like, transformative educational experience you've had. And then he's like, here's these sweet essays about crazy stuff. And they tell him, they say, quote, dude, your essays are incredible. Like, these essays rock. But they're fully off topic. Kind of weird. And then they just keep talking to him. They're like, dude, you just fell off so bad. You had great scores, but now they're so bad. And then they're like, dude, we don't want to use you. Like, if you're going to come to college, like, yeah, we really want you on our tennis team because you're so sick at tennis. But, like, we don't want to just use you for your body, which I can kind of, I can't respect that. Not kind of, I can respect that. They're like, look, we don't want to use you for your body. Like, part of coming to college is being a good student, and students should be first. And then Mr. DeLint comes in, he's like, say that to your freaking football players, those dumb idiots, and you're gonna pay them, and you don't care about your football players if they're smart. And then deans are like, yo, chill, take a step back, chill. He's like, we're not talking about football, we're talking about tennis. And then they're like, that's not necessarily true, but he seemed to not like that. So they got kind of called out right there. But here's the quote that says, the first role at university is and must be as a student. So they're like, look, dude, we really don't want to just use you. And so, respect. So they're like, can you just explain to us, like, what's going on, why your scores are so freaking bad? And then how academic affair, one of the, like, deans there trying to recruit him, he has a high voice. And Hal's like, dude, this dude's voice is so high, what a bitch. Because he's like, academic affairs says in his high, serious, and Soto voice. He says, still looking for the... Oh, I thought this was funny. So it says, I highlight this. It says that this dude with this high voice, Hal's like, freaking, your voice is so high, dude. Don't even talk to me. But he's still looking at the file, and this is the quote. It says, academic affairs, his high and serious Soto voice, is still looking at the file before him as if it were a plate of something bad. So he's looking at this file and he's like, this file ain't good. He said, I'll tell you right now, my opinion, I'll tell you right now, dude, my opinion right now, it wouldn't be fair. It wouldn't be fair to you. It wouldn't be fair to the others. And then, so Hal starts bugging. He's like, dude, fuck. And they're like, because Hal was told, like, by DeLint and his uncle, he's like, look, dude, just don't talk. Just sit there on your consciously congruent freaking hard chair and just don't speak and don't do anything, and we've got you covered. So Hal says, he's like, they told me that they've got this covered, and like, what the heck? And so now he starts getting a little bit nervous. And right here is a good quote. He says, the familiar panic at feeling misperceived is rising, and my chest bumps and thuds. Because he's like, which I like that line, because it's like, oh, I don't like being misperceived, so that would make me panic. And now he's like, oh, dude, this isn't going right. Like, I thought this was fine, and I'm smart, but I had a rough year last year, and my grades were bad, but like, I'm still smart, and I'm so good at tennis. And so he's like, now he's tripping. He's boom, 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 boom. He's got that. Remember, he's got that shoe in his chest. And his chest is a dryer. Bah, 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 bah. He's like, oh man, I'm tripping. And they're right here. I like this. They keep talking. They're like, dude, I don't know. It's so bad. And then this is my favorite quote. So this is my favorite quote, probably that I've ever read. Get ready. This is my favorite quote I've ever read. So dude's tripping. He's bugging. And then this is the quote. It says, the room's carbonated silence is now hostile. Dude, let's turn on the light for that. Boom. We're going double light. Just so you can hear this quote again. The room's carbonated silence is now hostile. That's sick. If that doesn't hit for you, I don't know, dude. Like, just imagine a room getting hostile and you're kind of bugging and you're tripping and you're panicking. And I just think that's so clever to be like, the room's carbonated silence. That's sick. That's a bar. I restarted because I was doing so bad.
Really?
Yeah, so I restarted because I was just so scattered. And then after Hal's like, dude, the room's carbonated silence. But dude, just like carbonation, pop open a can, psh, carbonation. I don't know. I just think that's so fire. That's such a good way to put it. And then right after that, the deans are like, quote, I think it's time to let the actual applicant speak for himself, speak on his own behalf, the academic affairs. And this dude, he's the dude with the high voice, friggin' bitch voice. And so they're like, dude, let him speak for himself. Like, you guys are still talking for him. So they kick him out. They kick out Uncle, and they kick out Mr. DeLint. So now the dude's by himself. And while they kick him out, dude's bugging. He's not thrilled about it. He is not happy that, he's just nervous. He thought this whole thing was covered, and now it's not. And his uncle's getting kicked out, and Mr. DeLint got kicked out. But while that happens, Hal's thinking to himself, here's a quote. It says, this is not working out. And then it strikes me that exit signs would look to a native speaker of Latin like red lit signs that say he leaves. Which, sure, maybe. I don't know. And then right here he says, I would yield to the urge to bolt for the door ahead of them if I could know that bolting for the door is what the men in this room would see. So that's interesting. He's like, I would get up and dip, but I don't know if that's even what they would see. So I don't know what to take from that. He says a lot of things like that where he's like, I would do this thing if that's what they saw or if that's what they perceived. So further proof that he's probably bugging. He's probably tripping on something. And now he's alone. So right here it says, I'm alone among administrative heads. And then now he's alone. He's not stoked. A little footnote right here. They say, hey, dude, your brother went here. So, extra credit for him. Your brother went here. Good. Cool. And then he's thinking to himself, he says, yeah, the essays I wrote are old, but they're mine, and I wrote them, and they're sick. And he said, yeah, they're not on the instructed subject of most meaningful educational experience ever. But if I had done one for you from the last year, it would look to you like some sort of infant's random stabs on a keyboard, and to you and whomever He said, if I'd done one from the last year, it would look to you like some sort of infant's random stabs on a keyboard, and to you who use whomever as a subject. So he's like, dude, if I wrote one, let's go. That's fire. Oh, yeah, you could see him. Oh, disco top. gonna say, can it stab into there? Oh, good deal. Thank you. Oh, well, that light will cut out. It cuts out after like 15 seconds or a minute, and then we'll have my sweet disco lights. So he says, if I'd done one in the last year, it would look like a baby wrote it. So clearly he had a rough year. If that, clearly that didn't, the last year sucked for him. He's like, dude, it would look like a baby just danced on a keyboard, and it wouldn't be a good dance. It would be like an awkward gritty where he's falling and just smashes the keyboard with his face, and that's what it would look like. So stop giving me a hard time, because they're like, dude, we're not just trying to shoehorn you in. And he's like, dude, look, it's not like that. Like, and right here they say, okay, so he, director of composition just abruptly comes in, and then Hal's like, this guy's the alpha, fuck. And then director of composition, just another dean. They kick the dudes out. And then this dude gets into his personal space, into Hal's personal space. He's like, look, dude. And then Hal's like, I can see multiple eyebrow ticks on your fucking capillary webs and your oysters below, in the oysters below his eyes smell. The oysters below his eyes and capillary webs. And he smells like fabric softener and a breath mint that turns sour. So this dude's all up in his face. Hal can smell his breath. He's like, dude, you smell like fabric softener. Get in my freaking face. And then he's talking, but like the dude's only hearing so much. But this alpha bad breath dude, he's like, we've heard about you being very shy. We know you're very shy and you're very closed off, which maybe he is, or maybe he's just on a year-long bender and can't talk. I don't know. But then, he's like, he's picturing Daylint and his uncle outside. He's like, fuck, dude, they're outside. They're just sitting there. They're probably panicked. I'm panicked. And right here he says, I've been coached for this like a dawn before a RICO hearing. So picture that, dude. Clearly something's going on with this dude, because just for him to talk to people, they coached him like a dawn before a RICO hearing. If you don't know, Don's like boss, like Don to Don. I'm the Don. Probably like rappers say that. Probably. I definitely have heard rap lyrics where like, I'm the Don, I'm the Don, I'm the Don. I think that's like Big Sean. I'm the Don. Maybe Big Sean said that. Big Don, boy. And then, let's see. So he's like, dude, I've been coached for this like a friggin' drug dealer. Before a hearing. Like, that's how hard they're coaching this dude. And then it's just like going out the window. He's like, this sucks. And then right here, Hal's like, I would tell you all what you want to hear and more if the sounds I made could be what you hear. Let me repeat that. Hal says in his mind, I would tell you guys everything you want to hear and more if the sounds I made would be what you would hear. So Hal knows. So this is why they're coaching him. He's like, dude, I can't talk. He's like, I literally can't talk. I would talk if I could, but you won't hear talking. You'll hear not talking. It just won't work. And then they're like, so they're still just looking at him. So like, dude's not talking. And right here, this dude's like, look, Hal, please just explain to me why we couldn't be accused of using you, son. Like, this just wouldn't work. He says, here you are using a boy. He said, this is what they're going to say to me. They're going to be like, look, dude, here you are using a boy for just his body. A boy so shy and withdrawn, he won't speak up for himself. A jock with doctored marks and store-bought application. And then Hal's thinking, he like says in his mind, a lot of times he like says stuff, there's like quotes, but I don't think he's actually saying it out loud. Hal's like, my transcript from the last year might have been dickied around a little bit, maybe. But that was to get me over a rough spot. The grades prior to that were mine. My eyes are closed. The room is silent. I cannot make myself understood now. I'm speaking slowly and distinctively. Call it something I ate. He's like, oh, okay. I thought the thing died. Oh, it did die. Fudge. Dang it. Alright. Well, my speaker died. Well, not my speaker, but my little recording device. Alright, let's get through this. The audio is going to drop off a little bit. Whatever, dude. Let's get through it. So the dude, he's saying, he's like, dude, my application got dickied around a little bit. I fooled around with it a little bit, but like, it's cool. It ain't like that. And then all of a sudden, like, he closes his eyes, and he's like, call it something I ate. And then big space, look. I don't know if you can see. Big gap. And then it just cuts to, it's funny what you don't recall. And he starts telling this crazy story. He starts telling this story about his old house. And basically, in his old house, his mom was out rototilling, and the rototiller was like shaking her everywhere. She's shaking and quaking. Her hands are shaking. He's outside in the sun. Hal's like 5. His older brother, Oren's there. And then Hal runs out with some crazy fuzz in his hand. And basically, it's basement fuzz. It's basement mold. It's like basement green, orange, red, yellow mold. Crazy stuff. And he runs out, and he's like, guys. And he has all this mold in his hand. And he has mold all over his mouth. And he's like, guys, I ate this. I ate this. I ate this. And then Oren's like, dude, what are you talking about? He's like, I ate this. I ate this. And then the mom's like, dude, what's going on? And then she stops the rototiller, and she's like quaking and shaking. And then she's like shakily grabs his hand, and she's like, oh my gosh, you ate this? And he's like, yeah. And then she freaks out. She literally runs in a bunch of circles and starts screaming, he ate this, oh my gosh, he ate this. And then his brother Oren, but he calls him O, starts tweaking. He's like, dude, I'm nervous. This sucks. My mom's bugging. This sucks. And then it just cuts back to him going, my application's not bought, I'm telling them. Calling into the darkness of the red cave that opens before my eyes close. So he's like, guy's eyes closed. And he's like, dude, I didn't buy this. He said, I'm just a boy who plays tennis. I have an intricate history. I experience feelings. I'm complex. And he's like, I'm not just a jock. And then he says, guys, you think I'm dumb? And right here he says, I read. I study. He said, I consume libraries. He said, I'm the type of dude, right here he says, I'm the type of dude that hops in a taxi. And he says, the library, and step on it. He says, I hop in a taxi and say, the library, step on it. That's how freaking well-read I am. I consume libraries, boy. And then, so he's just popping off on them. And he's like, you want to hear some crazy thoughts? I believe Dennis Gaber is the Antichrist. I don't know who that is, but that's what he says. He's like, I consume so many libraries, I think that. He says, I believe Hobbes is just Rousseau in a dark mirror. Also over my head, I don't know. He says, I believe with Hegel that transcendence is absorption. Absorbed. I can interface with you guys right under the table. I'm just a creatus, manufactured, conditioned, bred for a function. He's like, I'm just a smart-ass dude that's here, bred for tennis. I think is what he's saying. And he opens his eyes. He says, please don't think I don't care, dude. He says, I look out. Directed my way is horror. So he just pops off. He says, dude, step on it. Library. Antichrist. I read a lot of books. You guys are dumb, not me. And then he goes, I open my eyes. Please don't think I don't care. And then he says, I look out. Directed my way is horror. I rise from my chair. I see jowls sagging, eyebrows high on trembling foreheads, cheeks bright white. The chair recedes below me. And then the director says, sweet mother of Christ. And then Hal says, I'm fine. I tell them, and he's standing. He says, from the Yellow Dean's expression, there's brutal wind blowing from my direction. So they're just like, oh my gosh. They're like, oh, he consumes libraries. But not really. That's what, and then he says, 8 eyes have become blank discs that stare at whatever they see. And he's like, do they see me? Or what the heck do they see? Because they look crazy. And then athletics director person says, good God. And then they say, please don't worry. No, he says, please don't worry. I can explain. And then I soothe the air with a casual hand. He's like, please don't worry. I can explain. And explain what? I don't know. And they're like, and then it says, both my arms are pinioned from behind me by the director. So that both his arms are like, he gets arrested. That's what goes on. He says, let's see right here. Both my arms are pinned behind me. And this dude tackles me. He wrestles me down roughly, and I taste the floor. So they tackle him, put his face on the freaking floor. He just said, I consume books. Now he's on the floor getting tackled, licking the ground. He says, what's wrong? I say, one of them's like, "What's wrong, son?" He's like, "Nothing's wrong. Nothing's wrong. It's all right. I'm here." And then they're like, "Dude, it's okay. We're here. We're gonna help you." And then they say, "Get help, please." And then my forehead is pressed on the ground. I never knew I could be so cold. I am arrested. I try to be perceived as limp and pliable. He's like, "I'm being arrested, but I'm trying to be a rag doll." I thought that was kind of funny. And then somebody says, "What in God's name are those?" Look, they say, "What in God's name are those?" You know? What in God's name is what? Sorry, I lost my place. He never knew you could be so cold. They say, "What in God's name are those?" Wendine cries shrilly. "Those sounds." So look, this is where he said, he's like, "I will freaking sweet talk you guys, but it ain't what you guys are going to hear." So now he just popped off. He just like popped off on them. And they're like, what the heck were those sounds, dude? And then they say, "God, help." And then, doors open, people freaking tackle him to the ground. He says, "There's nothing wrong," I say slowly from the floor. "I'm in here. I'm in here." And then it says, "I'm raised by my underarms. I'm shaking." And then, right here it says, "Distant sirens." All right, so they call like the ambulance or something. A crude half Nelson. They got him fucking half Nelson, a little tight beat. And then forms at the door. And then right here, "A young Hispanic woman holds her palm against my mouth." Oh, wait. "A young Hispanic woman holds her palm against her mouth." Oh, okay. I thought she was covering her mouth. Oh, man. Hi, Spike. Oh, Spike. Yeah, so covers her mouth. He says, "I'm not." And then it cuts like a big break. And then I think it's just going to be like a new memory happening. So basically, what do I think's going on? Hal's tripping. He's bugging. They're trying to talk to him. Because now it's going to cut. I didn't read that far. That's where we're going to end off. We'll see what our hero Hal does next. He just got freaking tackled. He consumes libraries. He got tackled. And then everybody's freaking out. They're like, what the heck were those sounds? And not only, like, it's not like this dude just can't really talk that good. And he's like, wants to talk and it just sounds kind of funny. Or like, I can't talk very well. They're freaking. They're bugging. So it's like, is he making demon sounds? I don't know. But it's like, they're looking at him like he's a monster, essentially. So that's interesting. And then, yeah. So again, they tackle him. Young Hispanic lady's like, "Oh my gosh, I caramba, hi, mommy." I don't know. She's like, "Oh my gosh, I'm tripping." And then, I don't know, everybody's bugging. I don't know what's going on. So I think he's like tripping, a little drug trip. And, and then he pops in, he ate mold when he was a kid. So maybe that has something to do with it. But I don't know. That was just thrown in there, and now it's going to jump to, like, some old memory. So next video will pop into, like, what's going on in this. It seems like it's, like, a new flashback, or it's just a jump to a new memory. It's, like, a new scene happening right there. So he got tackled, and then it's going to be a new scene. And then I think what's going to happen is it's going to be a new scene, jump back to what's going on. It's going to be, like, Hal in a hospital bed, probably, and he's going to be like, "Oh, gosh, what's up?" So, yeah. Hopefully you guys are following along. Hopefully, I explained that somewhat okay. So, yeah, long story short, he's talking to the deans. They're like, "Dude, this sucks. Whoa, what's going on?" He's like, "I can explain." And then he tries to explain. They freak out, and they tackle him, shove his face on the ground. Hispanic lady covers her mouth. Goes, "Oh, ay Dios mío, ay Dios mío." That's what she says, probably. So, yeah. Let's see what happens next time. Sidetrack reads a book. Henny reads a book. Episode 2, we got starlights. We're in a dog cage. We're chilling. And have a good one. What's up? Later.